Good. Aye, good. Glad to be home.
Kai, I was going to say, mate, it must be a busy schedule outside of work for you. Just how many times you managed to get up and down the road?
I think I've been back about 4 times in 14 months. And probably when I say that, it's 24 to 48 hour periods.
Aye.
It's never like 4 or 5 days.
Aye.
It's a lifestyle.
Do you miss it, or you happy with
Do you know what? I don't, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just love to work.
Aye.
So I don't have that thought process. For example, I'm home now because we played on Friday night on Sky Sports, so we're off Saturday, Sunday, which is a blessing and a very unique opportunity. So I take advantage of that. Then it'll come on my radar, right, go home, spend a few days, do what I can do. So
nice. Head of Media and Communications, right? So I've got a feeling that job title doesn't really cover the million things that come underneath it, and it's probably one of the things that football fans look at and go, I'd love to do that, and you go, well, what is it? And they're like, well, I don't know. Just looks brilliant. How did you even get into that sort of arena?
Do you know that it's quite interesting? I grew up an actor. So for the age of 4 or 5 all the way to about 18, 19, I was in stage, then TV shows, and a little bit of film, a little bit of adverts, and ultimately the confidence aspect of me being a people person has been natural since I was that age. But I probably didn't realise today at later teenage years that I was obsessed with the 25 guys behind the camera.
Right.
You know, the
crew,
the crew, the people that are putting this together, the magic, the conductors, yeah. Obviously, after my studies for acting and some acting stuff started to dry up, and I wasn't getting as frequent roles. So I was in between the late teen / no, probably man. So it's like, what do I want to do here?
Aye.
I was working part-time, I was doing some acting stuff, and I got in contact with a guy at Accies, a guy called Jimmy Thompson, who's the stadium manager. And he's just a diamond, really. Nice guy, one of these people that you just, like yourself, quite infectious, you can get on with pretty easily. And explained my situation to him. One day he's like, do you know what, come to Accies. I'll introduce you to Colin McGowan, who was the chief exec. And really went in and pitched it, and Colin was like, look, love your enthusiasm. We don't have a media team. I can see that you can bring some sort of value, but we don't have money to pay you.
Aye.
And at that point, I just seen an opportunity. So I quit the job that I was in.
Right.
Went and worked, technically volunteered at Hackies for about 2-3 months, paid my expenses and all that, which was a tough time because there was no money coming in. And eventually they were like, nah, well, let's create a job. And that's how it started, really.
That's a risk.
So that's about 4.5 years ago.
So you're getting up like a wage,
Yeah,
really, to go in, and you don't know how it's going to turn out.
No. It was a realisation that do I want to continue acting, or do I want to go down another path here? And when I went down that other path, I'm quite still happy that I'm still here and doing it.
Bold strategy, mate. Yeah. How did your first couple of months go? Obviously you're volunteering, but you're effectively on trial a wee bit as well, because they're looking at you. So what kind of stuff were you doing to try and make yourself indispensable?
Yeah, of course. So it started off more content based at Accies because it was the first thing that they had nothing of. There was no graphics, there was no interviews with the manager. So it was like, let's try and get content out there, consistency in content. Giving the fans some stuff, trialing some things. Some things were backfired and it was like, whoa, don't do that. Doesn't work at Accies. But you learn for feedback, listening to supporters. Sometimes it's tough, as we discussed before we went on air. The football fans can divide opinion, but ultimately, mostly they're honest, and you can start to see patterns that works, that doesn't work. So content was key. Then the comms side that came, and to be fair, I got help quite a lot from actually a guy at Accies who at the time I probably seen him as a right pain in the backside because he was this older, experienced guy that's been there for years. But he taught me a lot, and he goes by the name of Scott Struthers, who's really well known in the Scottish football circuit. People watching this well know who Scott Struthers is, and he taught me a bit of the comm stuff, dealing with press, how to kind of guide that strategy and protect the brand and what's right, and don't go overboard here, and advise the manager this, and eventually I was doing it myself.
Right.
He was still there doing his own role, but it was probably I would always say Accies was an apprenticeship to me, certainly for the first year and a half to 2 years before
Yeah.
I started to get like more support in terms of like a budget to buy things and staff coming in to work with me and actually being a manager, I guess,
Aye.
to an extent.
Aye.
So I learned on the job, and it was hard because I
Aye.
was filming the interviews, I was editing the interviews, I was interviewing Brian Rice / Martin Cannon, writing press releases.
Aye.
Yeah.
And what was the biggest learning you took in that? Because it's obviously you're just basically through in there, and you've got to learn from your mistakes and keep it going. But what was your biggest kind of learning that you took from it? And
For the whole Aki's experience, or just when I started?
From your whole time there.
The most difficult thing that I dealt with that I would use as the biggest learning curve, and it's not the nicest story because it was a tough time for the individual. But the biggest learning curve for me was, unfortunately, and I will say unfortunately, when Brian Rice was going through the gambling scandal, if you want to call it, which was just a media circus, really. And ultimately, you're dealing with somebody here who, on one hand, people are going, how dare you do this? But then on the other hand, you've got a person at that time had issues. That was a big learning curve because that was a media circus, and that was the first time I had to deal with probably national media to an extent where it was like you were the number one story. And that was a big learning curve, you know, being tight as the chief exec to manager to myself. Like that was the first lesson where I thought, right, we need to be together in this. We need to be unified on our word, and we need to back him 100% because ultimately he's not done anything wrong here.
Aye.
And that was truly what I believed.
Aye.
That was what I believed, and that was a message that we put out.
And that was hard though, in that sense of you're going from doing your stuff kind of locally and nationally to all of a sudden
Everybody on you.
Aye.
100%. Because it's the stuff that you see in the TV.
Aye.
It's the stuff that you see everybody else dealing with, but not you. And you're just Hamilton Accies. You know, you just put out content. You're the wee team that goes about in the league, and you know nobody's expecting nothing for you. And then suddenly you are the number one news story, and it wasn't just like a day where it was like tomorrow it was gone. It was ultimately it was the notice of complaint that went out, the reaction to that, then the club's statement to back that up. Then you had the split opinion of Scottish football, as you do, and then it was a run up to his hearing. And then when you're arriving at Hampden with the manager and the chief exec and the chairman, and you're all there as a unit to back him, to see what comes out of this, and there's 6, 7, 8 photographers, Sky's there, BBC's there, they're all waiting there. That doesn't happen much. So when you look back at it and in hindsight, it was quite a big deal, but it was a massive learning curve for me. Massive.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. What about, I'm always curious when people kind of are in like work and they go U-turn and take something else. What was your kind of family's view on it?
Full support. They were proud because I think they always wanted me to do something with my life. Mum always wanted me to be an actor. She put me into acting age kind of 4 or 5 as this hyperactive wee ginger guy. And it paid off, you know, it did. I done well, you know, and I do look back at my acting career and I'm proud, you know, I've got professional credits. I was in CBBC kid shows, I'd done adverts, I made a good wee bit of money when I was doing it. And that was a great first chapter in my life. So I think when I started to go a bit quiet for the late teens and into the early 20s, and they were like, oh, what's it going to do with his life? I think that was probably an uncertain time for them. They're like, right, what's he going to do? And now they're incredibly proud. They know I'm an independent guy. When I was at Aki's, I stayed in Hamilton.
Right.
You know, and I know it's only 20 minutes in a train, but I was so on the job. Like I was there. I still hardly seen family. I was very driven. I was going in every day almost. I don't really take days off. Sunday's different. But you'll still get a journalist phoning you. Can we come in and interview this tomorrow? Can so on and so on and so on. So yeah, they back me. Yeah.
Which is good as well for you because it gives you the confidence to go and succeed in what you want to do.
Of course. I think you need that. You need that support network. You need people behind you to back you.
Oh, 100%, mate. What about, and obviously we touched on it before we came on air, your front line for Hamilton, so you're dealing with fans as well on a daily basis. What's the kind of good points and bad points of that interaction? Because as you say, Scottish football's a minefield.
Oh, for sure. Scottish football, you're more known. Everybody knows everybody that's connected to their club. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody knows you. That's really different than South. So, yeah, Hamilton fans, you have to have a good balance. Certainly in my time at Hamilton, the biggest experience in terms of dealing with fans was you have to have that balance of looking after your stakeholders, fans, sponsors, backers, owners, so on. So know everything that you're going to do is going to be loved by everybody.
Yeah.
And that's probably the hardest thing at first, because when you put content out, you want shares, likes, comments, people to back it. And if people get critical of it, you're kind of, oh, wait a minute.
Aye.
You know, and you'll know yourself. You're in that circuit. So it was trying to have that fine balance of community in football. And that's still an obstacle at Hamilton right now at this day, because it is a community club. They're backed by charities, sponsors. The sponsors that come in are there probably because of the social conscience of the club.
Yeah.
So it's really important you never forget that side. But it is also important to do manager interviews and do player previews and put players up to press and phone. The Sun does controversial. The Sun does a pull out every week, and they do like good features and really good stuff. And it's important to pick the phone up and say, look, we've got this player. It's got a really good story. Why don't we tie in here? So let's showcase this story. It puts the club in a good light, but we're previewing Saturday's game. And they were off for it. They were off for that. So it's important to have that fine balance, internal media, external media, and then community aspect. That always divides opinion.
Yeah.
But you need to do it.
100%. What about kind of high points from your time there? What was the moments that stuck out for you?
1-0 Rangers at Ibrox.
I fucking knew you were going to say that there.
And do you know what? It just felt amazing. Family are all Rangers fans. I grew up a Rangers fan and Liverpool. Love Liverpool to bits. Probably got a lot quieter in recent years in terms of my support to Rangers, and that's not. It's because, you know, when you work in Scottish football, you need to keep your head down.
Aye.
You do. If I go out there and I'm like, oh, I'm a big Rangers fan, and this was just my mindset when I get into media. Unfortunately, you feel as if it will close some doors.
Yeah.
So I always kept that side of me quiet. But when you're at Ibrox, that feeling was unreal.
Yeah.
Every time. Even when Rangers were winning and beating Hamilton, you know, you go there, you do a job, professional.
Yeah.
But that highlight, that night, that 1-0, David Moyle, it was an awful goal. It was a terrible error. I can picture it to a T. In fact, I still wind George Edmondson up to this day, because George Edmondson's at Ipswich, and he was involved in that game. And I think it's Goldson. And the famous line for Tom, the commentator at Rangers, is Goldson loses out, balls in the net. And that was it. So that's up there. What's also up there is Hamilton's youth getting to the UEFA Youth League, which is unbelievable. That is the Champions League for kids.
Aye.
So got the first round, went to Basel,
Right.
and over there 2 each draw. Home leg and return was a 2 each draw. Went to penalties. Hamilton put them out. Went through. First time Ackies have ever been in Europe. If you guess. 3,500 at Ackies, which is more than
That's brilliant.
I think it's more than what they've had in recent generations for a first team game. Unbelievable. So they two are really, really level. One aspect, it was that UEFA experience and seeing the kids do well. George Kearns, who was the academy director, like just still to this day, he's still there, and unbelievable what they do for kids there, and the development and the mindset and the education for youth. So that was beautiful. Dougie Emery was the coach leading up to it, but couldn't coach them during that because some UEFA rule where if you're still a player, you can't coach in a competition.
Right, okay.
So that was amazing. That memory will live with me forever, as will the 1-0 at Ibrox.
It will for me as well, mate, for very different reasons.
I think that went on to be like, I'm sure they were like the last team to beat Rangers in such a long time, because it was like, I think after that, Gerrard, they went on a run.
Yeah, I think they did.
That was a low point. They were actually clapping for Gerrard at that point.
That's right, aye.
You know, I will not forget that.
He was on a sugly peg.
At that point, he certainly was. But yeah, look, great memories. Yeah, they'll always have a place in my heart. Aye.
What about any kind of, in your time at Hamilton in your early years or later on, any bits of advice that you got that kind of really stuck with you, or anything that you still use today?
Business advice a lot for Colin McGowan, who's the chief exec. He taught me a lot in terms of like, you know, how to speak to people behind the scenes, how to conduct yourself. Don't let your emotions get the better of you. Make sure you get to know people. Don't leave bad blood, and
Right.
you know, don't fall out with someone and
Right.
walk away for that situation. Make sure you leave it as a positive.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing he taught me. Jimmy Thompson, who's a stadium manager still, he was like a father figure.
Yeah.
So that taught me again that you can have family in football, and people are there for you, and you can have family in your work.
Yeah.
So you've got your family at home, but you can still be close to people in work.
Yeah.
And George Kearns, who's the academy director, probably toughened me up and taught me to be a man in football and get on with it.
Right.
One thing I've probably never told George this, and if he watches, then amazing, but he toughened me up. He made, whether he knows it or not, he
Right.
made me the person that I'm now, because I would say I'm really mentally strong now in my job.
Did you need that though at the time?
Massively.
Aye.
I was vulnerable.
Aye.
I was this new guy with great ideas in a man's football environment that ultimately you don't know anything about football until you're in it, like in terms of like behind the scenes stuff. And that I needed it.
Aye.
So, you know, he would just treat me like one of the youth boys.
Aye.
You know, he just treated me like I was an academy player. What are you doing with this? Why not putting this out? Go and do this and go and do that. And at the time you're thinking, one part of you's got the, who you talking to?
Aye.
And then the other part's like, oh wow, wait a minute here. You're actually educating me.
Aye.
And I need to take that in. Because if I don't take that in, I'm wasting an opportunity. So for about 3.5 years, he was really tough on me. And it wasn't towards the end where he started to kind of take his foot off and just let me be a bit more the leader of the media side of it.
Aye.
But that's how that club works. Everybody dabbles into different areas, and that's the magic to that club, really. And I hope they get off the bottom of that championship, because they're better on that.
But it's a good grounding for you as well, because you're obviously going into this with ideas, but it's a massive industry and there's so many different parts of it. But to have somebody there like that who's going to be, to a degree, harsh with you, it's probably the best thing that's happened.
100%, but he's harsh because he cares.
Aye.
He's harsh because that's his life. And
Aye.
ultimately, if anybody damages that brand, it hurts so many people. And what you really need for any successful organisation is everybody pulling in that right direction. And he was really good at making sure that your mindset was like that.
Aye.
Excuse me. Whether you're the cleaner, whether you're stadium managers, he was like that with everybody. That's how he is.
Aye.
And it's important to have people like that.
Or
Who maybe come across sometimes as harsh and outspoken and direct, but ultimately they really care. So
every club needs them.
for sure. I think Rangers had it with Jimmy Bell.
Aye.
That's probably the nicest way to put it. Jimmy Bell was, everybody's like, oh, you know, even when we seen Jimmy when he came to Accies and stuff like that, Crabbit, proper Crabbit,
Aye.
but cared, never let a foot go wrong. You would hear things like, I'm sure many stuff came out sadly after his passing about, you know, how he was with players, and just you need people like that. You need people that are just.
It's always a kit man. Every Scottish club's got a kit man. It's a psychopath.
We had Danny Cunnin. I don't know if you ever remember the famous video with Danny Cunnin. So it's probably about 10 years ago now. It's Charles Patterson at the time at Sky. Hamilton were at Rangers, and they'd done a preview, and he goes up to the kit man, and he's in, and he goes, Danny, can you name the team? And he's like, he just names the Lisbon Lions. He's a Celtic fan. It would only take a few brave people to actually start doing that, you know. It's just Ryman, Clark and Gemo and McNeil, and just bim, 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 bim in the order, the goalkeeper to striker. And yeah, you need people like that who don't care. It's their way or their way, and it works.
So what ended it for you then at Hamilton? What was did you want to go, or what was the...
I wanted to learn more.
Right.
And I applied for a lot, you know, and it takes a long time to actually get the right opportunity. Ipswich was a weird one, because I seen the job, I applied for the job, no knowing how far it really was away.
Right.
Knew about the club's history, never really realised, whoa, I mean, it's really far.
Aye.
From Glasgow, and I mean, you're closer to Holland and France than you are to Glasgow right now. So I wanted to go down to the English Football League. I wanted to really go down to that Tuesday, Saturday market. that FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Papa John's League, just constant every day
Aye.
football. But what was really interesting when I done my research when applying to Ipswich at the time is they'd just been bought over.
Right.
So it was like a clean slate. It was almost like you were going into somewhere where it was a fresh start. You know, you're not going into a business that's already running great.
Aye.
No disrespect to previous owners, but it wasn't. So this ownership group bought the club, and a couple of months later they were obviously looking for a head of media and comms, and I felt that was really exciting. When I knew the chief exec that was going in, he started on the 1st of June 2021. So Mark Ashton, done a bit of research on him as well, and he was the first chief exec to give Brendan Rodgers his first ever managerial job at Watford.
Right, okay.
So Mark Ashton's really, really well known in the football world for developing people, giving young people opportunities, whether that's a head of recruitment, Kieran McKenna at 36 years old, manager at Ipswich, or whether it's me, Marcus Nash at 28, head of media and communications. Mark Ashton's very, very, very good at developing young people and reminding you that you're doing a good job, but you've got a lot to go, and this is part of your development. That really made me want to go. That sold me more than anything. More than the club. Love the club, but ultimately when you know you've got somebody that wants to put you into, make you a project,
Wants to develop you.
Yeah, you'll run through brick walls for them. And he made me, and still makes me want to do that. Yeah.
And is it a tough interview process? Because I'd imagine there's a lot of people interested in these jobs.
Probably about 4 or 5 stages, to be honest with you. The first interview was with the chairman, Mike O'Leary, and the previous head of media and communications, Steve Pearce, and they both done it on Zoom. It was a good process. And then the second one was with the chief exec, and that was a bit more, he challenged me a bit. And a media consultant was on that one. And then I went down to Ipswich for a coffee, which was a big deal because that's when you kind of sense that it's getting closer.
You've got a chance.
Just went down. I arrived at the stadium. It was a busy time for the club because obviously, as I said, Mark Ashton just started on June the 1st. I think that was very early in August. In fact, no, it wasn't. It was late on in July. So he'd only been there a month and a bit. So you can imagine the amount of workload he had. And I was in for 15 minutes. And he just wanted to see the whites of my eyes.
Which is mental for you because you're having to travel down for...
Well, yeah. But you can say anything on Zoom, can't you? And you can conduct yourself. But if you could, ultimately you need to sit in front of somebody and really feel that energy and believe them and trust them and put, you're not going to read someone until they're there.
Yeah.
And that's what he done. So that all of that's a learning curve for me. But it's important. It's important to know that person in front of you is the right person. And are you prepared to drop everything and come to Ipswich and move? You're not going to get homesick and leave in a couple of months. And all these questions were put in front of me, and it's important to ask that. And ultimately, I'm all in. Yeah, I'm all in.
Yeah.
Up and went. I put a 4-week notice period into Aki's. Aki's were brilliant because they actually says, do you know what? We'll make it 2 weeks. And just
to help you.
Backed me 100%. And sure as hell, I was down there after being offered the job, down there within 2 weeks. And that was me, new life. And I was no longer with my partner at the time. And that was a big thing for her as well. And she's there now, and it shows you people behind you. It goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the fact you're getting in with no fears about the actual move as well would make a difference because you probably get people that are like, Ipswich is a long way from home. I don't know how I'm going to be with this, but if you're getting in there, just like head down. I'm good to go.
For me, it's a lifestyle. There's a lot of sacrifices with that. Family time, spending time with my partner, a lot of things, but you need to be all in this job. You really need to be all in. And it's relentless. We're off Saturday, Sunday. I'm checking the club's hashtag every minute just for issues.
What's happening?
Who said what stories went out the day? Is there any issues? You need to live and breathe it. Whether it's waking up 2-3 in the morning. First thing I'll do is ignore people who have text me or emails and go straight on and see what's happening, who's talking about the club.
Aye.
Is it good or is it bad? It's like an addiction. But for me, it's important. And yeah, you need to be on. You need to be prepared to just go
Aye.
for anything. But no, it's a project. Ipswich is a project. So as much as I say you need to be ready to go and stuff like that, I think once you're settled somewhere, you're all in for that period.
Aye.
And for Aki's, that was the case as well. 3.5 years. And then Ipswich, it's the same.
What's the big, if any, what differences did you notice going from Hamilton to Ipswich? Because Ipswich are a big club.
Massive.
Did you realise how big they were before you got down there?
No, I don't think anybody does.
Right.
You know they've won the FA Cup. You know they've won the UEFA Cup. You know that they've had two of the greatest managers of all time with Sir Alf Ramsey that won the World Cup for England and Sir Bobby Robson.
Aye.
So you know these things, but you don't realise how big that club is. Like there is a sea of blue when you walk about Ipswich Town Centre. Anywhere you go in Ipswich, five-a-side, kids football, just a Friday night, everybody's wearing Ipswich.
Aye.
You don't see Man U, Rangers, Celtic, Liverpool. You very rarely see anybody wearing any other top, which is huge. We played Derby County Friday night there, and there was 28,500 in the stadium, which is a 29, and I don't know the exact capacity right now because you've got segregation and all that, but that is basically a sellout for League One, so technically the third division in English football. Massive club, so much pressure, passionate fans, people that demand success.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you said it before we went on air here, Ipswich in my mind, and people can call me delusional all you want, that has got the potential to be a Premier League club.
Yeah.
Because they've been a Premier League club. And if you set yourself a ceiling and go, all right, at best, a championship, that's all they're going to be. Because that mindset, you need to be able to, you can go all the way.
Yeah.
So Ipswich are massive, mate. And the pressure on getting every single decision right is huge because people will be on you, and there's a big stakeholder fan base that just want success.
Aye.
They just want their club back. They just want the glory days back. And when you build a team of staff on and off the pitch that want that, hopefully we'll get it.
Aye. Did you feel that pressure right away? Because obviously Hamilton's a different type of pressure. I would imagine that a lot of the time it's kind of survival.
Absolutely.
In the Premier League or be it in the Championship just now, you're trying to get back up. But then if you're going there, it's like, well, we expect to win.
Yeah.
Why are we not winning?
Everybody knows that Hamilton punched above their weight.
Yeah.
You go to Rangers and beat them 1-0. That's massive.
Yeah.
But ultimately, when you play Rangers or Celtic at Hamilton, that doesn't define your season.
Aye, it's a bonus, isn't it?
It's getting points against St Johnstone and getting points against Livingston's and scraping a point at Easter Road and survival. Survive. If you stay up, we were celebrating staying up.
Aye.
It's massive for the club because it means so much. The money, the ticketing revenue when Rangers and Celtic were coming to New Douglas Park. That's big bucks for Aki's. Catering and concourse stuff and bigger sponsors. And Ipswich, the pressure is to get up into the Championship. Now, I think last year that was always the goal, of course, but last year they brought in 19 new signings and it was really difficult. It's hard if you buy a club, you inherit such a work in progress that you need to work on, such as stadium needed love. The club had to touch the base of the community again and get that community trust, now foundation, better, as well as football.
Yeah.
To do that on one season, get promoted into the Championship is a big ask, and that never worked last year. Hence the reason Paul Cook left the club and we brought in Kieran McKenna and there was a change in December. Then Kieran McKenna came in and changed the way that the club plays. He probably made it such a modern way that you just need to watch how we play. It's really attractive football.
Yeah.
And you can see that he's worked at Man United's and Tottenham's, and you can see that. So we seen that towards the end of last season. We seen that, but we just missed short. We never made the playoffs and so on. This year, the goal is let's get out this league.
And it is a tough league to get out. We were saying before it, like there's maybe you can look at League One, League Two, and there's like a dozen teams in each league, and you're like, they're huge.
Yeah, Derby County for a start, Sheffield Wednesday.
Right. Well, everybody's watched the Sunderland thing the last 4 or 5 years.
Exactly. Portsmouth.
Aye. Aye.
These are teams that have all played top flight football, certainly in the past 20 years. So yeah, you've got no God-given right to just go and win a league.
Aye.
And you know, we got beat off of Lincoln at Portman Road 2 weeks ago. Lincoln. If I mentioned that to Joe Bloggs in Glasgow, they'd be like, "What?"
Aye.
And it's hard. It's a hard league. There's really good quality in football, and people make it difficult for you, and they don't let you play your style of football. And you know, it's it's not easy. But
how's the fan interaction down there? Because I would imagine it's very different from Hamilton.
Yeah, of course it is. The numbers are unbelievable. I think our audience in total across all our platforms is about 500,000 in terms of what I'm dealing with.
Right.
Of course, that's adding, you know, Instagram, and there might be duplicates, of course, in
Yeah.
there. But the general breakdown's about 500,000. There's Norwegian supporters clubs, Swedish supporters clubs, and it's big. It's
the Ed Sheeran factor as well.
Ed Sheeran, exactly. That's priceless for the club. I mean, we can talk about that a little bit more if you want, but yeah, the fan interactions, it's important. The fans need to see what's happening at the club. It's so important, and that does not just mean putting out, like, we put out a thing called Town in 5, which is amazing, and it's 5 minutes of the match day, and it's little snippets of player arrivals, people walking into the tunnel, warm-ups, highlights of the match, aftermath, and it brings you closer to the club.
Yeah.
But it's also important that we do like My Club, My Town, which is sitting somebody down and put them in their seat and like, what does it feel to be sitting in your seat right now and talking to us? That it's important to show them what's happening.
Yeah.
As much as you can without literally walking about with a camera, live streaming everything. Yeah. So yeah, it's important, and I think the fans are really appreciating that over the past year, that they feel like they're a part of it as well.
Yeah.
So that's certainly my goal, is bring the fans with us. Let's showcase our content as much as possible. Almost like the other 12th man. I know it's one of these terms where it's like, oh, you're milking that, but we try our best to showcase as much as we can. Yeah. And that, I think, is a trick.
Yeah, and it must be good for you as well that you've got fans out there that have got status and they're just posting stuff about the club as well, because it's free publicity, really. It's just kind of...
That's the Ed Sheeran factor. That's priceless. And this is him. So we just announced on Friday that Ed Sheeran will be sponsoring the club for the 3rd season in a row. So his logo will appear next season as well on the home and the away kit. Priceless. And that came about, I believe, because he just really didn't want to see like gambling companies and stuff on his club's, his town's shirt.
It's that local thing again, isn't
exactly,
it? It's that support thing.
But for us, it's been unbelievable. We've sold more shirts this season than we've ever sold, ever in our history. And the 3rd kit, which is an all black kit, which we played in on Friday night, the sleeves are actually designed, it's Ed Sheeran's album. So it's black and grey, but it's like the pattern of his album.
Right, okay.
So he designed that.
Right.
Which is so unique.
Aye.
That shirt sold more than any other Ipswich shirt in history.
That's insane.
And it's a 3rd kit. So Ipswich, blue and white. Unbelievable. Ed asks for nothing back for the club. He just puts in, asks for nothing back. It's a relationship that our chief exec does really, really well. It's just, it's amazing. It really is. I've seen him. I've never met him. The relationship is more dealing with like the management of Ed, and when you're dealing with a world superstar. Yeah. So it's very rare you do something, but this season we had them involved in all our kit launches. Right. So that was very unique to work with his media team from afar, shall we say, and get imagery, videos of Ed, which obviously ultimately helped to get the brand out there. So now you've got people, Cheerios as they're called, wearing the Ipswich kits worldwide. There's people wearing Ipswich kits all over the world because of Ed Sheeran.
That's wild. That is wild.
And it's crazy. And he's a registered player, technically. He's number 17 in the squad. Like, and that's 2 years running. So
you get a run of injuries, it could just
be it's always been asked, would they play? I don't know if he would. Would they want somebody to snap him up against Cheltenham? But he's number 17. He's been number 17 2 years in a row, and
That's mental.
it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Surely there's got to be a cameo appearance at some point.
But I think he'd love to do that, but whether or not it would be
The manager would.
yeah. I guess that's the thing, and I think, say you win the league and the league's done, and you've got a dead rubber game. On one side, you could look at it like, could we play him for 2 seconds, a couple of minutes? But then the other side, is that disrespectful to your opponent? So there's two ways of looking at that.
God, you could fill a 90,000 stadium.
Oh, I'm sure you could, and the rest, and the rest. So yeah, I don't know if he'll ever play for Ipswich, but he's certainly got a squad number.
Love that. What about, a few people had actually sent me this in when I said you were coming on, and it sounds like a really basic question, but it probably isn't for you. Do you ever get nervous at all in that environment of first team players? And maybe it's more at Hamilton than it is at Ipswich, but are you always confident in yourself, or is there an element of nerves when you're dealing with? Because obviously the level of player will go up by moving to England as it naturally would, but how do you deal with that side of things?
I just treat them like human beings.
Yeah.
It probably did make me nervous when I first started in the job, when you're like going to Parkheads and Rangers and you're walking by Brendan Rodgers and Steven Gerrard, and like you're literally rubbing shoulders with these people. So that was a lot to learn, you know, like, oh wow, that's Steven Gerrard there, that's one of my heroes. Like I love the guy. Controversial opinion, but I love him. And you know, I'm not going to go up and fanboy him and get a photo because I'm there working. And ultimately, he's the opponent. So with my own players, I just get on with them, and you need them to buy into you. You need them to buy into you. Football's a tough environment. I went on earlier talking about George Cairns and stuff like that, and how he is, and that's football. You know, it's a tough environment. You know, whether that's the men's side of the game or the women's side of the game, it doesn't matter. There's strong people there with strong mentalities. So if I show a weakness to the player, that's not a good sign. So I've got to treat them like people. And sometimes it's tough, you know, you go get beat 1-0 at home off Lincoln. I need to be brave enough to walk in that dressing room when players have got their hands and their heads, they're gutted. And somebody needs to depress. So
you've got
that's it, you know. So it's having that, look, tough game, but mate, I need you to depress.
And I suppose it's the relationship you have with them. If they're then understanding, well, that's your job as well.
Of course,
it's got to be done. Do you know what I mean?
Let people. It's all about bringing people with you. Let them know what you do. So the players, we are really lucky. That environment at Ipswich is, I don't know how they've done it. It clearly, it's the ethos of the American owners, the chief exec, the manager, but there's not a person there who's negative and doesn't want to be there. And that's for the cleaners, the chefs, right up to your star players like Sam Morsey and Christian Walton. Everybody's pulling in the right direction, and everybody cares about everybody. So some days you'll get players and staff just turning up at the stadium for the training ground, going round with donuts, into the finance department, into the ticketing office. We're all in it together. So that buy-in, if you let people know what your job's like, they'll get it. So I guess it's how open you are as a person. We're all open, so I don't get nervous is the ultimate answer to the question. I did, but you get over that, like anything. You get over
just
it.
with time.
Yeah, I think so.
What does a typical day look like for you down in Ipswich? If you have a typical day,
nothing runs to plan. Nothing runs to plan. I usually have like 6 or 7 bullet points of stuff that I need to do through that day. I'll be lucky if I get done half of that. You'll get pulled pillar to post in my job. You know, somebody will pull you in, look, I need to tell you this issue might come out, or can you advise us on this, or we've got this press release for this sponsor that was meant to be done last week, you need to get it out of the day. Right, stop what you're doing, guys, let's write this, let's So you just don't know. You don't know. You ultimately don't know how your day is going to be. That's how it's important to live the lifestyle and be on the ball and be 100% and be all in, because you can't be certainly my job. It's different for my team. If the lads want to take days off or do what they want, fine. But in my mindset, it's you go on holiday when the season's done before pre-season, and the rest of it you're on. So I need to be prepared for anything. I really do. And that took the Brian Rice situation at Hamilton taught me that. So now I'm ready for anything. So there's no set routine.
No 9 to 5?
No, definitely not. No, definitely not. I don't do all the I'm very, very fortunate, and more fortunate than some other teams in the division, where I've got a team of seriously talented boys around me, where they're really, really good at their job. And I guess that's the tactic: surround people that are better than you at other areas. So somebody's a better writer than me, somebody's a better video editor than me, somebody's a better videographer than me, and ultimately that makes everything good.
Yep.
So I'm blessed in that aspect, where they can take care of the day-to-day stuff, and I can worry about the strategic side of things. But there is no set routine.
I suppose that's the thing as well, because for anybody looking at this industry and thinking, I would love to get involved in that, it's not just a 35-hour week.
No,
it's not just
It's not, and I don't want to scare people and say, oh, you've always wanted to work in football, and don't do it because, by the way, it's going to take over your life.
Yeah.
But it probably will. It is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I deeply believe that if you're going to work at a club, you need to be all in. You really need to. You need to be an all-rounder.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a master of your craft, but you need to be able to know a little bit of everything. Like tomorrow, for example, and it's the first time ever this has happened. It's a unique opportunity. I'll need to interview the manager to preview the game, because my guys, the boys are on holiday, so they've all went a weekend away. People will be looking at this like, how dare you? How dare they take time off? But ultimately, the media lads, a couple of them have went away to Dublin.
Right.
Rightly so, brilliant.
Right.
I'm so for it. They work so hard. They deserve time off. So they're not coming back to tomorrow night. So the team leave at 3:00 tomorrow. Manager press will be tomorrow. Player will need to go up as well. I'll go up and take care of it myself. I don't have an issue doing that.
Aye.
Like, I really don't have an issue. In fact, I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Because I've not touched the camera and interviewed somebody in so long. So, yeah, it's about surrounding yourself with good people and but believing in them and believing in the ethos and getting on with it. And there's no set way of doing that.
What's the hardest part of the job? Everybody talks about the brilliant things. What's maybe not things you don't enjoy, but what do you find the most challenging?
I wouldn't say it's the most challenging thing, but it's every day remembering that it's not about me and my stuff needs to stay outside. Because if I'm having a bad day, decisions can go the wrong way. Again, learned that at Hamilton, how to do that. So I've had, when I've got a tough time and I've got a family situation, or if there's anything going on, I don't ever bring it into work.
Yeah.
I'm in walking about with a smile. In fact, I probably overly smile when things aren't great.
Right.
Because I'm like, no, I need to be so sharp and I need to be so focused, and this has got to be it. So pardon the pun, leaving your shit at the door.
Yeah.
It's not about you, it's about the brand that you're protecting. And that's probably one of my biggest sort of mojos every day.
Who's your own inspirations in that world?
Wow. It's a tough question. So many people, really, in different ways. I admire people like my mate Kev, guy at Liverpool. I admire the fact that he is a Liverpool boy, he's a Liverpool fan, and he's living the dream working for Liverpool. That doesn't necessarily mean that I would want to work for Liverpool. Yeah. I'm not in any awe of what he does, but I'm inspired by him in terms of he's loving his job. He helped me when I needed advice to get into my job, and he's played a big part in that. My chief exec inspires me at the moment because he's a hungry guy, who's all about developing people and wants to bring me with him.
Do you feel you need that development?
Absolutely.
Aye. I
used to think I knew it all. Not in football, I don't think. I think maybe it spells, but certainly when I was an actor, I thought I knew it all. And I think when you got that mindset of I'm the man, that's a terrible position to be in because you're not.
You're always likely to fall at that point.
Yeah, 100%. So learn. I always I've got a long way to go, mate. I honestly feel, and I'm so glad I can admit that and be humble in front of you and tell you that I want to be better than what I am now. I want to educate myself, and I think having people that think like that as well is important. Yeah. So you need to always realise that every day's a school day. Pardon the jargon, but yeah.
One thing that somebody actually asked me to mention, well, 4 people asked me to mention this.
Oh my God.
And I don't know if you'll remember this or no, but I managed the team that played Hamilton in the Matthew Craig Memorial match.
Wow.
For Atlantic Quay. and the Carville brothers both messaged me and said, ask him about the 10-minute cameo when he came on,
Yeah.
played in goals and dropped a fucking clanger.
Oh, wow. 4 people. Yeah. And George Kearns was the Hamilton manager. He was the one that yanked me on and off.
That's right.
I let him down massively that day. Yeah. I just loved playing in goals when I was younger. I was never great. I was never good at football. I must just be honest and admit that. But I was like, oh, come on, and I'll have a cameo. I'll get, and I don't know. I just think I let the situation get the better of me.
Mate, you made my day. We were 4-1 down and we ended up 4 each.
Yeah, and then won the penalty shootout. I can't believe it. I'm still in shock to this day. In fact, there's a funny photo of me running on, wearing the yellow kit. I can remember it to a T. And I'm running on, and Sean Fagan, who's the commercial side at Accies, he's in the background at a focus in the photo, and he's got his hands and his hips looking like that, as if, oh, fuck.
I've got a video of one of the goals.
Oh, wow.
I'll send you later.
Put it into this. Go for it. Why not? It's important to show people that I might be good at some things, but I'm not good at everything. Yeah, that was a funny day. But do you know what? Yeah, it was a great game because Matthew Craig was such an important person for people at Hamilton. I wasn't lucky enough to meet Matthew, but to this day they still do Easter camps and stuff in his name, and you know, a young football player that unfortunately couldn't become a football player, and then he just devoted his life to coaching kids and devotion, and sadly lost his life. So important that we never forget people like that.
Definitely.
So no, of course it's very funny for that, but it was a fitting tribute to a successful and really nice young man.
And do you know, the thing I noticed that day, and I said it to like the boys when we were in the dressing room, it's such a family club.
It is.
Because see, from when we got there, like we were treated so well by everybody, and you just left with a really good.
It is. I really wish that it was showcased a lot more in Scottish football. Listen, I was relentless. Phoning Sky, phoning papers, trying to line things up. When I was there, like I was proper on it in terms of I wanted everybody to know everything about Hamilton. To me, Hamilton were the most important club in the league.
Yeah.
And I would love more people to find out about that, because I don't think they get enough credit for that. If I'm being honest, they don't. So yeah, they're a brilliant club. That ethos, it all goes back to what I was saying earlier. And listen, and it splits the fans' views, because you've in one side you've got the community aspect of the club, and then the other side you've got football fans that just demand football content. And I agree with both. There needs to be a balance of both. But that community side will never ever change at Hamilton. It will never change for as long as the people that are there are there. It just won't. It's just great. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, it really is.
All about recovery and stuff, and helping people out, and just everything. They just don't forget good people. There's a lot of talented people still there.
Yeah.
And that all comes for the top. That message of like, be the better person. Don't forget your community conscience. And that's where I am now. You know, there's no doubt about that. That side of it is important to my job just as much as football side. So.
And seeing the sense of, a lot of people had asked about what kind of advice would you give people who maybe want to do something like this but they don't know where to start. Do you think being somewhere like Hamilton is like a perfect grounding for somebody going to this? Or
for sure, absolutely. Certainly where they are now, and they're not on the top flight of football, so the pressure's a little bit more off. You know, you don't have as many Sky Sports and Press Association coming to your games and stuff, so there would be a lot less to deal with. So I do think it's a unique club for someone to go in that's an all-rounder, that can do a wee bit of filming, a wee bit of interviewing, and not probably what Hamilton need right now is someone like myself back at the start.
Yeah.
Just start again.
Yeah.
Just start again. Just go again. Have that balance of community. Have that balance of football content, and be consistent with it.
Yeah.
Be consistent. Don't put one video out every week. Just be all over it. Be constant. What's New York Red Bulls doing? What's Rangers doing? What's Sunderland doing? Right. Okay. I like that. I like that. I like that. I'm going to put that into that one idea. it's no stealing ideas. Nothing's original. You've
Right.
took inspiration from maybe 2, 3, 4 areas and made something yours.
Yeah.
So that's probably advice that I'd give people. Be relentless, be hardworking, be humble, be willing to learn, be willing to put the hours in. My God, if I get paid an early rate, I'd be a millionaire. And that goes for my team and everybody that works in football media as a whole. Doesn't matter where they are, they put the hours in.
Yeah. I suppose it's that kind of, as you say, you've got to be all in. You've got to kind of fully commit to it.
That's
No
it.
matter
I mean,
what.
my guys are constant. Like at Ipswich, they're now like they're in at 9 o'clock at night. 9 o'clock at morning, and then after the Derby game, and people look at this and it's unhealthy. they don't go until we're the second last people at the stadium after probably security.
Right.
Security are last, and then media's still there, editing videos, putting web articles online, publicising stuff and scheduling stuff for the next day.
Right.
It's constant,
Right.
and I do think it takes a unique person to want to live and breathe that. It's not for everybody, but there's millions of people out there that bite their hand off for a job in the industry.
Not a doubt. Any any absolute nightmares you've had? Try to organise something or try to get a deadline for something or interviews or...
A nightmare. Oh. I think any nightmares is like a typo or a spelling error on Twitter.
Somebody's all over it.
Twitter's just the worst because you can't edit anything.
And somebody always notices it right away.
Yeah, just things like that. There's nothing that really stands out and I'm like, oh my God, that's an absolute nightmare. But just little typos, and certainly like you can go on Facebook and edit it like that, or Instagram and edit it like that.
Right.
Twitter's like, nah, delete the tweet. And then say you've got like 40 retweets and 200 likes and 10 comments. That's showing up still in so many timelines, and they're clicking it to come, this tweet has been deleted. So I would say just the odd time where I need to actually do a tweet or something and it goes out wrong. You beat yourself up more than what people notice, believe it or not. But yeah, that's probably... What else? Any nightmares? God, I need to give people an insight. I don't really have any. I honestly, I love my job, so I don't have anything that's like...
Dream job for you?
Absolutely. I probably didn't realise it until Hamilton. And certainly when I was younger, I thought I was going to be an actor in Hollywood and all that. Had that mindset that I wanted to be an actor, and that's that. So but I'm so glad that it was something that came later in life, I guess. Not later, but later into my teens, into my early 20s. But I absolutely love football. It's good to be involved in an industry where you love it so much, but you're not good at that. Like, I can't play football. I'm awful. You've seen it. You've seen it yourself. But I'm involved in it. And it's, I guess you could look at it like, I love football and I love acting, and I've combined it both.
Aye.
Because acting, and people just think actors are people turn up and read scripts and big performances, but actors have got English literature behind them, and they can write, and they're creative.
Yeah.
They know a lot of people. They know how producers' minds work. They know how directors' minds work. So there's so many actors out there living that Joey Tribbiani lifestyle, waiting for the phone to go, going to auditions, getting absolutely nowhere, that probably could do so many big jobs out there.
Yeah.
And until they realise their strengths in other fields, they'll never know. But I do think the acting was a big advantage.
You miss it at all?
No, I don't.
No.
It was one of the big questions that I was asked when I was coming into Ipswich is, is your acting career in the past? And it absolutely is. Totally done with it. I used to say I'll never say never, but I don't ever see it now.
Yeah.
I do miss it a little bit, but I feel like this is where I'm meant to be.
Yeah. It's
So,
like your natural place now.
I'm comfortable, I'm happy, I'm always wanting to challenge myself. I care so much, I'm passionate. If something's not gone right, I'll show it. Like, in terms of, my emotions might come out, but it's that driven to be the best and be better than what I can be and be better what I've done before.
Which is good emotion.
It's important. So, no, it is a dream job, definitely. And people do say, oh, you love Liverpool, but would you love it there? No, right now, no.
Aye.
Ipswich.
That's your future.
I'm so sold on Ipswich Town.
Aye.
The journey, the the opportunity to take this club back into the Premier League might take 5, 6, 7 years, but I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
want to be a part of that, because that will live with fans, coaches, media, staff forever. Like forever. To be able to say that you were part of that, unbelievable.
And it's rare to get in a journey like that from the start.
For sure. You know, they're a team that's in League One. They shouldn't be in League One. We've already discussed that there's 3, 4, 5 teams that are, I guess you call sleeping giants, English football. So we know that. We know that we're better than League One, but you're there for a reason.
Yeah.
And you're there in merit. And, you know, you've got no God-given right to get out of that league unless you do it on your performance. But if you have people behind you and everybody pulling in the same direction,
yeah,
I think you're halfway there. Yeah.
And you going to go up this year?
I hope so. It's really good. Kieran McGinn is really good at drilling that mindset into staff that it's just October and players. It's just October. We're 2 points off Plymouth. Plymouth are first and Ipswich are second. I guess Plymouth could get beaten Tuesday and we win on Tuesday and we're top of the league. Yeah. Nobody cares.
Aye.
It's just another 3 points. Aye. And I guess that's that silly typical football, you know, jargon. But if we continue the way we're going and get better consistently all the way to March, April, of course they'll go up. But just like anything, mate, long way to go.
Aye.
Just need to keep going.
100%. Any real kind of starstruck kind of pinch me moments for you so far with your career?
Steven Gerrard.
Did you talk to him?
I did. I said hello. I'd fist bump and that was always small chat.
Did you do that thing like floating around about him going, what am I going to say here?
Well, during the COVID season, where there was no fans in the stadium, so when there's a TV game, I don't know if you see the 2 free kind of Sky floor managers that are usually between the dugots and they're feeding, you know, Ryan Kent's coming off the bench, Sean Want's coming off the bench, and they'll feed that to the commentators, so the commentators got that before the board goes up.
Right.
It's called the floor manager. They weren't allowed between the dugots during COVID because that was a red zone and you weren't part of the team bubbles.
Right.
So that fell on the clubs, the home club, to do that.
Right.
So when it was at Aki's, that was me.
Right.
So there's pictures of me standing almost right behind the 4th official. Gerrard's there, Gary McAllister's there. You've got Brian Rice there. That's a surreal moment.
Aye.
Surreal. Never would have thought that you would see that. So yeah, that was pretty big in terms of pinch me moments. But you kind of get over it now. Like like if we were to get Man United or Liverpool in the 3rd round of the FA Cup, I wouldn't bat an eyelid. Right. Honestly, seeing Van Dijk's and that Alisson's, and as much as I support them and all of that, like they're
just used to it.
Yeah, but it's also kind of like they're here to play us, so
they're here to beat you.
They're the enemy. Aye. Like, so we'll be respectful to our opponents, but ultimately it's got to be about us. So no, I don't. Yeah, Gerrard's probably that moment. Funnily enough, gone to Parkhead. I went to Parkhead before I went to Ibrox, and I don't know if you've ever walked at the tunnel at Parkhead, but the stand facing the tunnel is huge.
Like the north stand,
and I'm not a Celtic supporter, but my legs kind of went like jelly a bit because I was like, whoa, like this is real. This is Celtic Park, you know, and this is a big stadium, a big club, a big fan base. So that was another moment for me, and it was empty. It was like 2.5 hours before kickoff. So yeah, there's many moments. I'm sure there will be moments that get me like that. Getting Ipswich was like that. I probably. What's important, here's an interesting topic that I think a lot of people suffer with, imposter syndrome. Yeah. Where you don't think you're good enough. And it's probably a humble thing for people, but getting that job, and I was like, oh wow, like how am I gonna do it? How am I gonna do things? And you know, what if I make an arse of it? And you worry, I'm not good enough, and what if this person's better than me? And 14 months in, and I would like to say that there's been a massive change in the 14 months because I've let my guys be them and I've let me be me. But imposter syndrome,
you still have it?
I think we all do. I think we all do. There's no point in lying. I I think it's one of life's challenges, isn't it? That when you're doing well, you're kind of waiting for something to fuck it up.
Waiting for somebody to come in and go, what you doing here?
Yeah. You know, so yeah, I think so. But you just remind yourself that you've just got to keep doing what you do. But I think that's, I don't know where I heard that. I think it was Stephen Bartlett on Diary of a CEO talking about that to someone, one of his guests. And yeah, it's crazy when you actually think about it. And you probably have it yourself, because the way you conduct yourself and the way you interview people, there's a right knack to it.
Have it every episode, mate.
Exactly. But you probably go away thinking, why did I ask that like that? Why did I do this like that? I mean,
do you know, I'm actually reading a book about it now, and it's a guy that recorded in here, and I kid you not, mate. See, when I read the first 3 chapters, I was like, this guy's quoting my life. Like, the things he was talking about when you're like applying for jobs and you're going for interviews and you're like, I feel like he's just fucking stepped in to my brain and pulled out all my thoughts.
Yeah, it's I mean, I listen to like Tony Robbins and stuff like that, and just any sort of positive mindset stuff that can set me up on my day, and I feel like stuff like that helps. But I think it all goes back to what I was saying. If you always want to develop yourself and educate yourself and realise that actually you want to be there, but you're only there, you're never ever there.
Aye.
So if you've got no glass ceiling, you don't have a ceiling.
Aye.
I think that's a good tactic of beating it. But imposter syndrome's it's a crazy thing, I think. I think we all suffer from it. It's like no one thinking you're good enough. I'm really bad at taking compliments now. When I was acting, I'd be like, oh, come on.
Aye, give me them.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. And now people are like, you know, you've really done well for yourself and that. And like, I'm like, I've got a long way to go. Like, I need to learn that. And I'm so glad that I've got that. But I guess that's probably a little bit of imposter syndrome as well. Might
probably
be.
Personal growth for you as well, though, now, because you're, as much as you're acknowledging that you're doing well, but you also acknowledge you've still got a bit to go.
Oh,
to
for
get
sure.
to where you want to.
For sure. And listening to fan feedback is part of that. Listening to how your bosses or managers want to develop you is part of that. And listening to your own personal mind.
Aye.
What's happening in there? You know, what you saying to yourself in there. They 3 factors are good for growth, aren't they? Really.
Totally agree, mate. That's been brilliant.
No, it's good.
Brilliant, mate.
I don't know how good it will look until I actually watch it, because there's aspects where I'm like, and that's imposter syndrome. I'm sitting there right now going, oh, I wonder if that sounds right, and does that come across right? But no, I'm humble to be here. It's great. I watched them. I seen the one with Cy Ferry the other day. Brilliant. No, it's a pleasure.
Just got to keep going, mate. And
That's
hopefully in 2 years we'll catch up and you'll win the Premiership with Ipswich.
Fingers crossed. Fingers
Ed
crossed.
Sheeran up front.
That's it. I'll try and get him on.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Cheers, mate.
Brilliant.